Because the Christmas season is upon us, I thought it'd be appropriate to tell you all a Christmas story with an IO Psych twist. So this is Corporate Social Responsibility, A Christmas Carol. I want you all to imagine for a moment that you're Mr. Scrooge here. You're the owner of a successful corporation with lots of resources to invest. Do you, as a successful corporation, have a moral obligation to reinvest these resources back into your community? Corporate social responsibility, or CSR, is the idea that corporations have a moral obligation to reinvest these resources back into their communities. So, although this isn't a mandated process or mandated practice in the United States, do you, as a successful business owner, feel that you are obligated to invest these resources back into your community? And as you all may well know, Mr. Scrooge will learn this very lesson at the end of the story. So in 1819, the Supreme Court ruled that corporations were to be represented as legal persons protected under the Constitution. So therefore, corporations are now counted as separate entities that must pay taxes and can exercise rights protected under the Constitution. So this brought up a lot of controversy for people. They began to think, okay, are corporations now accountable for their communities? To answer this question, Bowens in 1953, the father of CSR, publishes his book, which asks corporations to act in terms of what is deemed desirable to society. Again, in 1963, McGuire publishes his book, which asks for corporations to take an avid interest in areas like politics, education, the happiness of their employees, and the overall welfare of society. Jumping to the present, we have 4 types of CSR initiatives that take place today: environmental, philanthropic, volunteering, and ethical labor practices. So for example, LEGO has vowed to invest $150 million in addressing climate change. Wells Fargo donates 1.5% of its revenue each year to nonprofits. Netflix offers its employees 52 weeks of paid parental leave versus 18 weeks in other tech firms. Cisco, after Hurricane Maria hit, sent teams of volunteers to Puerto Rico to reestablish communication lines for first responders and families. Therefore, these are just a few examples of present-day examples of companies initiating CSR initiatives, both locally and abroad. Although without these CSR initiatives, the world would be a much different place. For example, the $2 to $3 billion raised in gift matching programs each year would be lost. Nonprofits wouldn't see the $2 billion donated annually each year by top 10 corporations. And corporations themselves would be impacted by the loss of these initiatives. For example, employees who are proud of their corporation CSR initiatives are more likely to be engaged. Consumers are more likely to do business with those that are socially and charitably active. So therefore, as we've learned, companies do have a moral responsibility towards their communities. CSR initiatives are important to the furtherment of society, and without them, the world would be a drastically different place. IO psychologists should recognize the importance of these initiatives, not only for public image and employee engagement, for the overall health and wellness of the organization. So, in short, don't be a Scrooge. Thank you. So as you can tell, I had a lot of fun with the art because I drew all the little characters.
You drew them?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Wow.
I didn't like any of the ones I saw online, so I took the time to draw each and every one.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah. So that was the fun part of this presentation. And I thought, do you kind of get each character though? Did I draw them okay?
Yeah.
For those of you who've seen the movie. So other than that, I think I've grown a lot in terms of just presenting. I have no cue cards because Gons and George told me they'd burn them if I brought them this time. So I didn't bring them.
Very good.
So I think I've gone further than that. But it's just taking that practice every day and doing this over and over again to feel comfortable up here. So, but I'd like to hear some feedback. So whoever wants to.
I can see a lot of improvement from the beginning. Not saying you were bad at the beginning.
No, I get it. Yeah.
You seem more confident, and you seem to like know what you're saying and being like I said, confident about it. So that's really
Thank you.
Do you get how good you were? Do you
Aw.
understand that? Like
Thank
coming
you.
from the first one, standing no card, I think you looked at the screen probably like 3 times. Everything you said was really clear. There wasn't a lot. There was like very little to no stuttering. You knew all your content, which was the big thing that Gods and I were harking, you on. It was extremely creative. It was, you have like 45 freaking references because that's your thing. You're in the R references starts with the R, you start with R. But like as an entire presentation, I personally think there was little to no flaws in it because of the way you presented the content. And then if you want to go from like improvement, you probably get the MIP award for the season. So.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
I'm just like amazed at how much you can memorize.
Thank you.
Like, wow, you know, like all of that was in the slides, all the stuff you had in the slides, you said it all, and even more than that. Which really is just like how much you can learn or memorize. Use that to your advantage.
Thank you. You should see me in karaoke.
And yeah,
There's a party.
This party, yeah.
congratulations on using the cards. I think
Thank
that'll
you.
make a difference.
Yeah, I didn't want to come up here and have you guys rip them out in front of everybody.
The only thing I'll point out is like maybe come out of your cage there.
I think the reason why I did that was just because I didn't want to use the clicker. I was actually practicing with my computer, so this felt more natural to just, but yeah, you're right. I shouldn't use the podium too much as a shield, but yeah. Yes.
I must comment. First off, this is true art. This is art. Yes.
Thank you.
It's such an exciting intro slide. It's so festive and aesthetic.
And I matched it, see?
And you matched it. Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna get to that point. It just makes people want to follow it, right? And I really like how you put content and art, and then your full name.
Thank
Wow,
you.
that's what an artist would do. Yes.
Thank you.
Own your artwork. Yes. It's a refreshing presentation style. I'd say this is your best presentation so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate how much effort you put into matching your outfit with the theme of this.
Yep.
So that kind of compensates for the lack of body movement.
Thank you. There you go. As long as I look good.
Yeah. So, and I'd say you're one of the most artistic in our cohort.
Aw. I was thinking of making us all like a class photo one day, so maybe in the future y'all will have a little caricature for IO.
Yeah, maybe you can like avatar for each.
Yeah, every one of us. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
I like stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
No way. There's a dumbbell? What? What is that? You want to lift it
It's a
while we
dumbbell.
do
1,000 pound
It's
dumbbell.
Gotta go
Styrofoam.
Wait, do you
So,
wish
so to move us along, I'm a little dumbfounded. I'm thoroughly impressed. Everyone did a good job praising you, and I will continue in that vein.
Thank you.
This was great. I've never given a perfect score before.
Oh, thank you.
I'm blown away.
That's a lot. Thank you.
You did great.
Thank you so much.
Can I use this for other people to
Of
say
course, yeah.
what a great presentation looks like when
Of
the next
course.
cohort comes through?
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. I love that.
It's
Thank you.
phenomenal. It's really good.
Thank you
Bar's
so much.
really high.
Thank you.
I feel really bad for the next cohort coming through that this is the video I'm going to show them. We're like, well, what are we supposed? How could we do that? Because I'm going to tell the artwork's yours.
Thank
All
you.
that. So
This was every week.
yeah,
Yeah.
this was we're telling you, this was their first day. No, Ray, this was killer.
Thank you guys.
Great job.
so much.
Thank
It's
you.
been my day.
Great job.
So I guess Ray set a high bar for us tonight. But I'm going to move towards ethical training, and as I've liked to do in my past presentations, I kind of want to give us continuous tools. I kind of didn't do this intentionally, it's just kind of how I feel, I guess, with the information that I read in the articles. So in the articles, we talked about ethical and responsibility and rationalization. So I kind of wanted to tie that in and incorporate it in how we can use it as IO practitioners or in HR or anywhere we go in our career, and help companies be aware of the ethics that they bring upon and how they react to things or just work. So I'm going to actually do an activity today, which is different. I kind of wanted to step out of my comfort zone. And there is 5 different activities on the website that I found it on. And I decided to do the technology search, ethics, and find. And I kind of modified it a little bit because we're short on time. So the first thing is we have to get in 4 to 5, group of 4 to 5 people. And I actually went ahead and chose the dilemma for you guys so that you guys don't spend too much time looking for it. And Ashley is going to go ahead and pass it around. So please get into 4 to 5, group of 4 to 5 people. And we will have a dilemma, which is the same dilemma for everyone so that we know what's going on when it comes to coming together. After that, we're going to answer a series of questions based on the dilemma, and then one group will share one question, which will be the last one. So the dilemmas, the answers are here. So as soon as you're done reading it, your group can go ahead and go over the questions based off what you read. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And in 5 minutes, I'll check up on you guys, and we'll go ahead and talk about the answer for the last question, whichever group wants to share.
Plus one accounting, otherwise conducting ethical accounting practices is the latest cloud, especially of the big trade. One of the most famous examples is over years in actual financial statements. Yeah, it's hard to get.
I would say this is a competition trying to ensure that the status
Although the federal regulations
So they lost 25, they lost
Face value, right, accounting, the books, or dilemma was around performance. People that were in the positions that were made in charge, the metric for success was so high, the targets were so aggressive, that there was really no achievable way of doing that outside of like a reason, right? Not everyone. Not always. Research. More creative, I mean, it's just amazing. Like, you could be a really creative, artistic person, and that's associated with more. I should say less. Especially it doesn't every person. Those two are related. So they're going to get creative. Some of that. And I think that's However, I'm sure they're great, right? You realize no one
Be the best Keep publishing.
this investor
You didn't like this. You didn't like really well.
He lost, they made big
If they lost,
not everyone's in that position and not everyone's in that It's really, is that really a choice? Okay, I'll take it. When everyone else is
Okay, did everyone have time to answer the questions? Who would like to answer the last question? What would be the best course of action due to this scenario or dilemma?
We said, since we can't guillotine people, that we should put them in front of Congress and embarrass them and obviously like make it public that they did this. And then people wouldn't follow and sue and copy their behavior because they know that they'd be caught.
Good answer, Tyler, sorry.
Did everybody get the same dilemma?
Yes.
Okay. At what point are we answering that last question? I mean, we're in the timeline. Or just if we were put in that situation,
Yes.
like before everything went crashing down.
Before the government had to step in, what
Right.
would have been the best course of action?
Honesty, transparency. It's not always easy, but I think that if they were more transparent about their finances, that their shareholders would have been, okay, I can back out or stay in. But, they would have a starting point to move forward in terms of make progress and where they're losing money.
Thank you for your answers. So through these questions, and the training, it allows the employees to think about decisions that they can make ethically, and it gets them brainstorming about what's right from wrong, like we've been saying all night. So through this experience, we said that this specific one is for the employees to look up their own dilemmas, and like I said, because we were in such a short time, I decided to give you all the dilemma myself and make sure that it was the same so we knew what we were talking about. But it's a quick training that employers can do for their employees, and they also have 5 different ones to make the group sharing. They have other activities that have to do with harassment and just other ethical trainings that we could go through. And they're in the website here if you guys would like to look at them and have more depth. I can share this Google Slides with you, and also they have the breakdowns of how to use them and how activities can be run. But I decided to do this activity rundown because I thought it was important. In order for us to decrease unethical behaviors in the workplace, we should be able to train our employees to be able to have ethical understanding and self-awareness of what they should and shouldn't be doing at work. Comments?
The activity that you,
Go ahead.
the activity that you made us do was really good in getting everyone on board and getting to the same level of thinking. That was the purpose behind the activity, I guess. And it did actually give us, a real example of how being ethical can be difficult and how to come out of that. And, yeah.
I know we talked previously and you were kind of concerned that maybe that this presentation wasn't maybe as prepared or as good as you thought your previous ones were, but I thought this one was great too. It followed your theme, like you said, presenting tools, which I think is great, because we need that. We need those practical applications. So if anything, I'm walking away with another tool in my tool belt, knowing what to do if I'm ever in that situation, I could use this. So, thank you.
It was a really great presentation. I thought that the activity was really helpful to help us see firsthand, like, just wrestle with those kinds of situations and visualize it a little bit more. My one comment is these handouts, it took a little while for us to read. So if you could like do like bullet points or something, that would just give us a real quick idea. I think that it's really good. I really like the whole scenario idea, but I think in a 5-minute presentation, I think like every second counts, and we spent like 30 seconds at least like reading through these. So if you could save that time, I think that would just be even more effective.
I liked the activity. I appreciate that you branched out and had us break up in groups, discuss, and did it within a very brief time frame, right? Like a 5 to 7 minute presentation. So I thought that was really good. It's nice to engage an audience by giving them a chance to speak, right? And then you even asked us to speak again, so your engagement is really high, right? Everyone is given more energy because they were able to speak in their group and then spoke. A few students spoke as a class, so that's really nice, especially at whatever time, 8:40 in the evening. Understanding the context of their audience and the time of day it is really helpful. So that was really good. I enjoyed that. The topic is difficult to be passionate about or like have a real like gripping material with, but you found a way to do it. I thought that was really good. The Enron scandal. Was everyone even alive at that time? I don't even know. Maybe James wasn't, but or no, was. He was the only one. Okay, everyone else maybe not, but Felipe too. Okay. So a couple of us were alive at that time. Some of you were just a gleam in your parents' eyes, I guess. But in any case, I thought it was really good. Right. That's a good thing. But anyways, I really appreciated the Enron scandal story. I thought it was really good. I appreciated that you gave it some like personal touch. You helped us navigate through that. You led the group really well and strongly, and I think that was a good example as well. Thank you. Very, very good. I'm
21 years old. It's actually born in 2001.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm going to tell you a little about ethics and responsibility with regard to architecture, and hopefully related to your lives as well. Basically, the points I want you to be thinking about in this discussion is how can we grow ethically ourselves, and how can we grow the ethics of others, especially when they might not necessarily agree with us from the onset. And so just have that in mind. LEED is an accreditation thing for buildings. Basically, if you see that plaque in the middle in the building, it means that it's to some degree environmentally friendly, and platinum is the highest rank. Basically, they rate your construction and design methods based off of those categories, and they proclaim it based off different numbers and stuff about each of those, how good it is, how efficient it is, and try to promote good building behavior that way. And there's also, with that train of thought, the 2030 challenge, which is a challenge for us to be making buildings that have basically no environmental impact by 2030. It's pretty ambitious, and yeah, but that's the goal. And so it's kind of like moving the efficiency in that direction with the buildings. But that's a goal towards energy efficiency is defined as 0, basically. You're not doing anything bad. You're not like throwing things in the air. You're not using valuable resources lightly, that kind of thing. And I want to focus on how we can take that 0 and make it positive instead of just eliminating the negative. And that's what the Living Building Challenge does. It's another sort of award that architecture pieces get. And it's based off the idea that the things that that LEED categorizes off of are based on those negatives, and it wants to promote beyond that a bit. So some of these are similar, these points, which are the petals of the Living Building Challenge, but it kind of has a different take on them too. So for example, with the place one, it's not just that you're using the space efficiently, but for your building to get Living Building Challenge accreditation, it would have to be not on new unused land at all. And so it would have to be based on completely like revamping and making more efficient what has already been used. If you look at like comparisons of older cities to like LA, my example is when I flew into LA from Rome, and you see how much of the world in LA is concrete. It looks awful. And basically this is taking a step towards stopping that expansion, saying we've grabbed enough space. We need to just learn to make better use of it now. And that sort of thing. Also, this regards beauty as a positive with design. And so that's just another example that I really like from this one, of how it's saying like, how does this affect us? Not just the environment around us, but also us ourselves. And has to make a positive impact that way. How do we inspire others to do this? This is an image of a bioswale. It's something that you probably see a lot. If you were at the tree lighting yesterday and you saw the snow in the pit, that was a bioswale. It's basically where the water runoff goes from a building site when it rains, and they use those to conserve the water on site rather than flushing it off into the sewer right away. And different areas have different needs for that. But basically it's a more obvious environmental measure that we can see. And I didn't have a picture of the example I had in mind to talk about with this, so I'm using this. But basically, one of my professors told us about a project he had with a school design. And he wanted to promote good environmental design with them, but it wasn't necessarily the school board's priority. And so what did he do? He went out and found a challenge, a sort of scholarship, if you will, for the design. And it said like, we'll give X amount of money to a project for a school that focuses on teaching kids how environmental stuff works. And so they would have carefully planned bioswales and rain collectors and other things of that sort with the school design to incorporate and not hide those features, but to display them to the students and help them learn that way. And so by engaging in that challenge with the school board, he was able to get them on board with something they otherwise wouldn't have prioritized. And I think that was good. So basically, how do we grow ethically? We challenge ourselves. And then how can we grow the ethics of others? We can invite them into our own personal challenges. They don't have to believe necessarily that it's the most important thing in the world, but they can see the goal is attainable. They can share in that goal. And then basically it opens the path for those conversations along the way and helps them to do that. So, that's my presentation. Thank you. What do I think I did well? I liked the structure of it, I guess. Yeah. I think I could have spent more time on it. I had a much beefier presentation earlier today that spent a lot of time on. And so this is kind of like between then and now. And then what was the other questions?
Do well.
What did I do well? I think I structured it well. I think it could have been longer. I didn't think it was necessary to explain all the petals and points for you guys to get the point generally. But I think I could have elaborated on some other things. It's kind of short. For questions, I guess this is my last time here, so I'll take anybody. But yeah. Anyone's so inspired.
I think I really enjoyed your presentation. I'm really fascinated by architecture too. So I really liked your explanation of like the initiatives and awards that they give out. So I thought that explaining that and how that increases just architecture and building ethicality, I guess. I thought that was very informational. So I really appreciate that.
Going off of like Ben's point, you know, when people think ethics, they're not gonna think architecture. You know, so the fact that you connected that is really awesome to see. And I think my only critique is just to see more energy from you, only because this is your expert class. You know, I comparatively speaking, everyone else in the room. So I'd like to just see, I guess, more power behind that. Because we don't really know what to talk about. You're
That's
educating
true.
us.
Maybe if I slept last night or not some, but
You really have to sleep.
what?
Don't sleep, like.
I went unconscious for almost half an hour this morning. It wasn't voluntary, so I'll get it.
After he graduates, architecture students don't sleep. They actually sleep less than every other year.
Really?
You like.
You have buildings collapsing.
It's really
So I will say I think I've mentioned before, my father's an architect and my mother's an engineer. So I'm hardwired to really thoroughly enjoy your presentations. Like they're great. I love that stuff. I grew up in my house, there would just be blueprints around and we had a drafting table. You probably know what that is.
Yeah.
No one else knows what I'm talking about. But I drafted it in my house with all this. My favorite thing was to they had these erasers. They're like a really thin pencil eraser, but it's really long, and there was a machine you put it in that spun the eraser really fast, so you didn't have to use your hand because you have to erase huge sections at a time. And I would spin it around and carve things in the eraser because it was like your own little pottery wheel with an eraser. I loved it. My parents didn't love that, but I loved it. But anyways, I've been around this stuff for a very long time, and I learned a lot. I had no idea about the current, do you say LEED or you say LEED or LEED? Okay, so the LEED kind of barometer or kind of status of building code, but now the LBC type of goals that they have. I thought that was really fascinating. I think you're a positive psychologist at heart, because it's not about going from negative to zero. It's about going from zero to above and beyond that. You can do better. So I really like that. It's fun. And architecture is amazing, and beautiful, and interesting, and it's great. So I really like that stuff. Obviously, I'm biased, so you did a great grade. When you did say that this was your last class, I honestly was really hurt. I was like, oh, no, I totally forgot that you're not going to be in the next class, and I'm really
trying
sad.
to learn game design next semester with my one election.
Oh, well, I understand, but I was honestly really sad that you're not going to be with us. So that
It's been
speaks
fun.
that speaks a lot about who you are, and I thoroughly appreciate you being in this class. It's been great for all of us, and myself included. So thank you. How are we doing on time? How's everybody feeling?
Kind of that last presentation.
Do we want to take a break or no?
Yes.
Yes, no? Yes? Yeah?
Take a break.
Is that okay?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm fine.
Okay.
It's just like that,